Hey guys, how are you? So I just recently came back from a vacation. I met my cousin in Boston. We went to New Hampshire, which was absolutely amazing, and then we went on to Salem. Um, I took a lot of pictures of the Witch Trials Memorial, and I kind of thought there's just stuff with that. I mean, the whole situation is sad, but why don't we deep dive into it? So I'll put the information that I have up. So the information that I love to learn about new things and then share what I learn with other people. So the information that I share with you will be a summary of what I heard myself. Also combined, I did like a timeline that I Google searched. So the information came from my Google search as a summary type thing, as well as the Encyclopedia Britannica. So I was sure that I did not misinterpret or misrepresent any of the information that I heard while in Salem. My gut feeling, the sheriff in Salem, and I may be wrong about this, but the sheriff at the time in 1692, I think I got chills anytime his name was discussed. I may be completely wrong. It may have just been him being caught up in the same hysteria, that everybody else was caught up in. But I actually feel my gut was kind of like saying, in modern times, he would be a killer. Like, I kind of think that I think he enjoyed being able to accuse and almost talk people into believing this hysteria just to be able to see people die. And I may be completely wrong in that, but that's one of the things we're going to ask the cards. So I guess I'll quit babbling and let's get to it a little bit. First, I want to go over the information that I've heard and that I researched, and we'll kind of combine that together with some of the pictures that I've got. After that's when we'll go ahead and do the video diving into the tarot cards. An overview of the Salem Witch Trials. This all was in a period in 1692. What started with some young girls start to have quote unquote fits, and the doctor, unknowing what was actually factually wrong with them, claimed that they were bewitched. Because the Puritans strongly believed in things like that. They felt that they needed to get rid of the evil. That's what started this mass hysteria. So these girls actually started to point fingers and accuse different women as being the local witches. Um, the whole thing is just super sad. Like when we were going through and viewing these different museums, um, like I said, I got a lot about the sheriff. His name was George Corwin, I believe. And I just didn't have a really good feel about him, but that's what we're going to do the tarot reading about later. Um, when they were doing the trials, they didn't need any type of factual evidence. So the accusers could do so out of spite if they just didn't like somebody. So these women and men died, mainly some of them, because, people just accused them because they didn't like them, maybe. So they would say during the court hearings that there was pinches, they were visited in dreams, etc. All pretty sad stuff, and not something that really you would think would be able to get you hung for. Giles Corey is the one man who got to me the most. He was an elderly gentleman who was pressed to death because he refused to either admit nor deny whether he was or was not a witch. All right, guys, so I really thoroughly enjoyed my time in Salem, visiting the shops, learning all the history that I did learn. Like I said, the witch trials actually really did get to me, and I promised a deep dive with some tarot. So first thing I want to do is I want to find out what kind of person was the sheriff, because I said again during the video, I said when I introduced it that, like, and again, I'm getting chills. I don't feel he was a good person, but I may be wrong. I trust my cards and what my cards say, so we're going to look into that first. So what kind of person was the sheriff in 1692? Sheriff George Corwin first thing that came out was the Tower. The Tower is destruction, devastation. I think my theory was right, and the chills that I have are confirming for me that I believe this man was set on destruction. I don't believe he was a super great man. I want to get one more here. Let's do another card just to say what kind of person was Sheriff George Corwin during the 1692 timeline in Salem, Massachusetts. What kind of man was the sheriff? Underhanded, rotten. Yeah, the sheriff was not a good man. He really didn't care about anything else. He wanted things done his way. He thrived on destruction. He thrived on crushing people's beliefs. And, oh gosh, chills all over the place. I don't want to offend anybody by this. This is just my opinion. But yeah, the judge, I think my hinkies were right on. That at that time, that judge felt he was right, and he was right at all costs, and he wanted to prove he was right at all costs. I don't know if he was trying to make a name for himself at the cost of other people. This is a balancing act, and his thinking cap is on. Generally, the star indicates hope and healing and being open to change, but I just, the first two cards that came out, being the Tower, being the Five of Swords, are very much so indicating that he was walking this tight rope, and he wasn't afraid to stir the pot. So yeah, sheriff wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty and do dirty work. So let's get off of him a little bit, because I got the hinkies and the chills just discussing that time period and with what I felt there. I want to discuss one of the young girls. Anne did apologize several years after the hangings took place. She apologized for her part in the hysteria. And I understand she was only 12 years old, but I want to get a little bit more of an overview over Ann Putnam, please. A little bit of an overview over Ann Putnam, which was one of the accusers. She was in conjunction. So yes, as a young girl, she was learning from others. She was actually being told something of what to say from others. So she was working in conjunction with other people. She was not working on her own. And as a 12-year-old, I do feel a little bit bad for her in that sense. During the tours and everything, I was like not feeling bad for this girl, because even at 12 years old, you know between right and wrong in this day and age. And I'm sure even back in that day and age, it was even more put into you. It was more enforced. And so I was really not getting good feelings about her as well, even though she was only a child. Like, why didn't any of these young girls step foot? And I think really, you see the Two of Cups is about people coming together, okay? And it is unity. And in all honesty, though, I think what this was about is that at the time, because of the hysteria, I think that even people who wanted to probably say something were very much so afraid that they then themselves would be accused of witchcraft and be in the witch dungeon and be, have no way to defend themselves. So judgment, it was a decision, a self-evaluation, a decision, somebody else, and judgment is about judging self and judging others. So I think that even as a young child, they would have known that other people may look and judge them. So maybe I'm being too judgy with, what I said about her before. I do have Watching Thy Neighbor, and I get that because I have the Page of Swords and I have the Four of Wands, and this is about community. This is somebody who's young, who's watching. Watching Thy Neighbor is what came to me, and death. So I'm thinking that Anne probably did fully regret when she was an adult to the destruction, maybe when she understood a little bit more. So these girls, when they did grow up, what were their thoughts about what they did? Was there remorse? True remorse. Yeah, as they grew, they were very honest about the part that they played in things. This is all these people that are involved. So it's saying other people were involved. They had to overcome and move forth after that time period. So yes, I do really, truly feel like these young girls that were involved um, did have honest and true remorse, and that what happened due to authority, which would coincide probably with that sheriff, with the leaders in the community, and these young girls probably not knowing what to do because of their elders, you know. One other thing, the poor people who were accused, did they find peace? That is a main thing for me. Did the accused find peace? Yeah, I do believe they did. I have the Three of Pentacles. I have the Four of Swords. For me, the Four of Swords is all about rest, recovery, self-care. Their faith, I'm really strongly feeling that their own faith carried them through the things that were not clear to them. Carried them through the darkness, I kind of just heard, because we have all of this dark energy here. And this, again, it reminds me, this is like a cathedral, this is like a church. So I do believe that they did get a sense of peace in their, I do believe that they actually ended up with a sense of peace, whatever your own beliefs are for there. And I'm just pulling some cards here. I had the Six of Cups, which is about history, and it is about returning to things. So overall, I do think that the Salem Witch Trials were very, it was a period in time where things were so much different 400 years ago than what they are now. But we can still learn from that. We can learn from how the need to be right is not always appropriate. Like, there can be more than one way. As a matter of fact, I loved when I was up there. I do have a picture in my camera roll. There was a church literally right beside a place that said the Good Witch. And I love the fact that those two were side by side. There was no ill will towards anybody. This is about people coming together, about not this, but one of the lessons I feel that we can all get out of the timeline is, again, like there's more than one way. There is no need for people to be right. Sometimes being right takes away so much more than the point you were trying to prove. Okay, I do feel that sheriff, and I again, I'm sorry if I offend anybody, I do feel that sheriff did some things very underhanded. I think he played a big part in enforcing that this hysteria almost continue. I think he got some kind of a thrill out of it, honestly. I think he wanted to be proven that he was right, he was in control. I may be wrong. That's kind of the thoughts I was getting, and my cards actually kind of corroborated that. But otherwise, again, very interesting trip. If you ever get the chance, I would very much so suggest going up there and just seeing what there is to see. But I very much so enjoyed hearing the history about it. All right, have a good one.